We've got a problem, and unfortunately, it's something that many of us don't even see as a problem at all, which is really scary. In fact, we willingly embrace this problem every single day. We crave it, and yet it can be toxic for our health and our wholeness. It can keep us from realizing our full potential. It can rob us of our future. And I think it's actually fair to say that in many ways, it's silently killing us. But here's the thing. If you can attack this problem head on, then you're gonna be able to unlock an entirely new level of personal formation, something that I think so many of us are trying to unlock. You'll see an incredible transformation in your physical, mental, spiritual health. You'll see growth in your career, your relationships, heck, your finances. Yeah, it's that big of a problem. You may find that this one problem is what's been keeping you stuck this whole time. And let me tell you something, this episode is particularly important for all leaders or emerging leaders. That is, after all, what this community is all about. If you're new to the channel, I want to say a big welcome. I'm Zach. I've been a leader in the social sector for many years, and after finishing graduate school, I decided to really lean into studying leadership, which is why I started this channel. To be a student of leadership and hopefully serve great people like you along the way. Every week, I release new content designed with you in mind, and if you find value in today's episode, it would just mean the world to me if you would consider liking and subscribing, or if you're listening via podcast, rating and reviewing. It's such a simple way to show your support. If you have any questions or insights, please feel free to hop in the comments and share them with all of us. And I just want to say thank you so much for being an active part of this community. All right, well, let's talk about this big problem, okay? That's obviously why you're here, so let's get right to it. Here's the problem that we need to talk about. And you're probably not going to believe me at first, but here you go. All right, ready? The problem is comfort. That's right, comfort. Now, I know that's probably not what you wanted to hear, and I get that. I didn't really want to hear it either, but here's the thing. We have an obsession with comfort. We do. And unfortunately, it's holding us back. Look, we talk a lot about building resilience on this channel. It's definitely a passion of mine. A pursuit of mine is to be a resilient leader. I believe that pain and suffering are just part of life, and you have to learn how to embrace them. But it was this book right here, The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter, that really got me thinking on a more practical level. I don't agree with everything necessarily that's in this book, but man, it really challenged my thinking. And I want to read you a section that pretty much sums up the premise of what the book is all about. And it's also going to, play into what we're going to talk about today. He says, I woke in a soft bed in a temperature-controlled room. I commuted to work in a pickup with all the conveniences of a luxury sedan. I killed any semblance of boredom with my smartphone. I sat in an ergonomic desk chair staring at a screen all day, working with my mind and not my body. When I arrived home from work, I filled my face with no effort, highly caloric foods that came from Lord knows where. Then I plopped down on my overstuffed sofa to binge on television streamed down from outer space. I rarely, if ever, felt the sensation of discomfort. The most physically uncomfortable thing I did, exercise, was executed inside an air-conditioned building as I watched cable news channels that are increasingly bent on confirming my worldview rather than challenging it. I wouldn't run outside unless the conditions were, comfortable. Neither too hot, too cold, nor too wet. What could cleansing myself of all these other comforts do for me? Pretty relatable, huh? I remember when I first read that, I just felt so owned. And then he goes on to present all of this highly convincing just body of evidence suggesting that our pursuit of comfort is, in fact, killing us. And at the very least, undermining all that our life could hold. He calls it the comfort crisis. And his prescription is to embrace discomfort in order to reclaim our health and wholeness. And yes, I think I agree with him. We have a comfort crisis, and it's killing us. And so many of us just need to have a major mindset shift. Think about all of the amenities, cars, computers, televisions, climate control, smart devices. The list is endless. All of these things are, historically speaking, brand new in the grand scheme of humanity. We're talking roughly 100 years or less. Some people suggest that we live in tough times, and I'm not trying to, pick a fight with them or anything, but I'm just not so sure we are. In many ways, we're living in comfortable times. Most people today rarely step outside of their comfort zone, living safe and under-challenged lives. But research shows that experiencing discomfort can be precisely what protects us from physical and psychological problems. We've seen obviously that lifespan might be on the rise, but health span is in decline. As Michael Easter says in his book, he says along the lines of, we don't have to deal with discomforts like working for our food or moving hard and heavy each day, feeling deep hunger and being exposed to the elements. But we do have to deal with the side effects of our comfort, which is the long-term physical and mental health problems that we're seeing. And there's another interesting dynamic to all of this, which is something called problem creep. You'd think that with more comfort, aka fewer problems, we'd become more satisfied, but that's not the case. We've just lowered our threshold for what we consider a problem. A lot of people call this first world problems, or others would say, you're soft. And, the truth is, we rarely experience discomforts like boredom or hunger or physical exertion. And we're just now waking up to the consequences of this. For instance, our lack of boredom is actually creating enormous mental fatigue, is what we're finding. And it's killing our creativity. There's been countless studies on this. In fact, I'm working on another episode soon that's going to talk about this. Our rejection of hunger has also led us to have constant access to food and has led to higher rates of obesity, heart disease, type 2 diabetes. Our lives have become increasingly inactive, which in turn contributes to both our physical and our mental health issues. I was looking at it this week, the US depression rate has remained historically high at over 18%. 18% since 2024. And the American Psychiatric Association does a mental health poll every year. And it shows that US adults are feeling increasingly, it's like year after year, more and more anxious. And so you see, our pursuit of comfort isn't innocent. There are things coming to the surface now that we have to talk about. What we're finding is that it's making us weaker, sicker, and more hopeless. And that's a problem. We need to stop avoiding discomfort like it's the plague. We need a mindset shift. As a man of faith, I personally find this concept deeply spiritual in nature. This is a theme that we see repeatedly in the Bible over and over again. Here's just a sampling. First, in the book of Romans, you're going to see it says, we can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they help us develop endurance, and endurance develops strength of character, and character strengthens our confident hope. And then in the book of James, you read, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy, for you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. Finally, in the book of John, it says, here on earth, you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart. This is the problem with trying to chase a comfortable life. It goes against the very fabric of reality. In order for your strength to grow, you first have to break everything down. And, we live in a broken world, and that comes with hardship, comes with pain, comes with trials. Now, you may not agree with my Christian worldview or that there might be a spiritual dynamic to this issue, which is fine. That's okay. I'm still your friend. But I think we can at least look at the research and agree that we can't pursue comfortable lives and then complain that we aren't where we want to be in life. Like, that just doesn't make sense. Comfort doesn't build strength. It builds weakness. We need to learn how to look at adversity. And instead of seeing adversity, we think opportunity to grow, opportunity to build resilience, opportunity to increase capacity, opportunity to build character, opportunity for great joy. That is different, right? How many people look at adversity and think that way? Now, I want to apply this entire concept to leadership for a moment. That is, after all, what this channel is about and why many of you are here. I remember one of my mentors once said that leadership should never be comfortable if you're doing it right. The life of a leader is a life of discomfort. How encouraging, right? But it's true. Choosing to be a leader is choosing to do the uncomfortable things that many people just aren't wanting or willing to do. Scholars who have studied the development of leaders have situated resilience as the heart of potential leadership growth. Resilience is this ability to sustain ambition in the face of adversity. We talk a lot about that on this channel. If you're looking for a great book on this, I highly suggest this one right here. It's called Leadership in Turbulent Times by Doris Kearns Goodwin. And I blazed through this. I found it so inspiring. And essentially, it goes through just four amazing leaders. Even on the back, you can see that there's four leaders: Abraham Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Lyndon B. Johnson. And it just studies their life and their similarities and talks about their journey into leadership. It's fascinating. Actually, in the very first episode I actually did on this channel, I referenced this book because it's just one of my favorites. You can also check out my leadership resource list on the description below. I'll put it there or in the show notes. There are a lot of other great resources on this particular topic that I think you'll thoroughly enjoy and will help you grow in this area. Bottom line, leaders don't retreat from discomfort. They embrace it. The best leaders have an enormous amount of discomfort in their past, like really hard things that they've gone through that have made them who they are, that have built them into the leader that they became. Well, here's our homework. Let's do something uncomfortable this week. Something that gets us out of our comfort zone. For me, obviously, I'm going to be applying this to my leadership in some ways, but another way I'm going to do this is I think I'm going to pick up rucking. Do you know what rucking is? Go look it up. But apparently, it really sucks. It's really, really uncomfortable. And I'm going to give it a try. And I'll let you know how it goes. Let me know what you end up doing in the comments. I'm curious. And I'm curious to see kind of what that builds in you as a leader, the kind of resilience that it brings into your life. As always, thank you so much for spending time with me. I never take it for granted. Keep fighting the good fight. And hey, if you found this episode valuable, I think you're really going to like this episode that's going to pop up right here, where we unpack leadership insights from Navy SEALs and talk about embracing discomfort. I think you'll find it really valuable. I'll see you over there.